Thank you again to all of you for being here this morning for this important hearing, and Mr. Rieckhoff, we'll begin with you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. On behalf of IAVA, Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, and over 200,000 of our members and supporters, many of whom are here today, thank you for inviting us to testify on the long-term costs of war for our generation of veterans. I served in Iraq from 2003 to 2004 as a platoon leader with the 3rd Infantry Division. When my unit returned and I came home from war, we returned to a country confused by and a bit uncomfortable with its warriors. People wanted to help, they just didn't know how. So bringing to light the true costs of these wars is part of the reason we formed IAVA in a cramped studio apartment back in 2004. And this hearing comes at a critical time. Right now, our nation teeters on the edge of default, and service members and veterans are left concerned and a bit scared. IAVA members from across the country have contacted us in the past few days. They still don't know if they will get disability, retirement, GI Bill checks that they so rightfully earned, or even their base pay. They have enough to deal with already, and they deserve the answers to these questions. It's up to Congress and the President to get us these answers. But we're here today to examine the lifetime cost of this new generation of vets, and I'll start with the bottom line up front, something I learned to do in the Army. It's going to be expensive, and it's going to be complex. But history shows us that it will be less expensive and less complex if we invest as a nation in our veterans now. Doing so also has the added bonus of cultivating a new generation of leaders, future teachers, doctors, CEOs, and maybe even a few members of Congress. They will lead our nation the only way they know how, from the front. The current condition of new veterans' readjustment into civilian society isn't pretty. Officially, 13.3% are unemployed as of this past June, more than 4 percentage points higher than the national average. Now, we see numbers in our membership closer to 20%. In Indiana, it's 24%, and in Michigan, it's nearly 30%. Nationwide, that means approximately 260,000 people in real numbers are out of work. That's about the same size as the entire Marine Corps. It does get worse. The military and veterans community is also facing a suicide epidemic. In 2010 alone, there were 468 suicides throughout the military, and it's estimated between 2005 and 2009, one service member committed suicide every 36 hours, and more committed suicide in 2010 than died in combat. Now, these numbers, while bleak, are really just the tip of the iceberg. The legacy of these wars will be the cumulative impact of the multiple deployments, year after year, a burden of many carried by few. And as these wars wind down, the military will likely downsize, just as it has done in all post-war periods. And a new surge of veterans is already returning to local communities nationwide. And cost will be a word thrown around a lot. Investment, though, probably won't be, and it should be, because these aren't just costs, they're investments. This committee and the public sector in general have done many good things for new veterans returning home. The best example, of course, was the post-9/11 GI Bill, which has provided close to 500,000 returning service members with educational opportunities they otherwise wouldn't dreamed of. And the exciting and urgently needed Hire Heroes Act, which the members of this committee are certainly familiar with, proves that you haven't rested on your laurels. This bill can and should be the first jobs bill passed by this Congress. But legislation and government can only do so much. The private sector must do its part too. Companies that commit to hiring veterans will find it's not charity, it's a smart investment. It's good for their bottom line. Veterans are entrepreneurial by nature. And although they represent less than 1% of Americans, 9% of American firms are veteran-owned. Many have specific skills that relate directly to the civilian trades: logistics, operations, communication, medicine, and engineering. If folks really want to support the troops, they should hire them, something companies and organizations have already realized. For example, IAVA has been proud to partner with companies like Google, JCPenney, CBRE, Schwab, and the Chamber of Commerce in efforts to turn the tide on veteran employment. These aren't just government problems or business problems or nonprofit problems. They're American problems. Take the experience of Specialist Nick Colgan. While serving in Afghanistan with the 82nd Airborne as a medic, Colgan proved himself over and over again. He saved the life of a French soldier that was shot in the head and was ultimately awarded a Bronze Star for his actions over the course of his deployment. He also suffered a traumatic brain injury due to an RPG attack. He was honorably just discharged 2 months after he left the war, unable to find a job anywhere in the medical field. He was looking to work as a first responder, which was the equivalent of what he did overseas, but employers said he lacked the proper certificates. While waiting many months for the VA to process his disability claim, he was forced to collect unemployment checks to make ends meet. But Colgan turned things around. The VA eventually did process his disability claim. He got the right paperwork to be a first responder, and after using some of his GI Bill benefits, he'll begin his senior year at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point this fall. But not all new veterans have the happy ending of a Nick Colgan, though sometimes we must remember that there are so many more as we plan for the future. Long term, it's estimated the cost will be between $600 billion and $1 trillion to care for this generation of veterans alone. Those are imposing numbers to be sure, especially in this time of economic recession and spiraling debt. Those numbers will only increase with time if we slash veteran programs in a short-sighted rush. The costs are clear, and they are tremendous, but so are the sacrifices that our men and women have made for our nation, and so is the potential for return. Before I deployed to Iraq, I worked on Wall Street. And if I were analyzing the potential return on this investment, I would say my generation gets a strong buy rating. Investing in the innovation generation is like buying shares of Apple stock in 1976. I'm here to tell you to put your money where your mouth is. Please invest in this generation. We are worth it, we will deliver, and we will not let America down. We never have, and we never will. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rieckhoff.